Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Tanner O'Brien. I'm a senior partner here at Action Coach in Central Texas. Today, I'm sitting down with Kyle Pletcher, who is the co-founder of Simply Crowns. Excited to be jumping into some conversation with you, Kyle. Thanks so much for taking the time. Gonna dive into a whole bunch of different topics here, but why don't we just start off with a little bit of background, a little bit of history, that sort of thing. So, if you would, just give us a 10,000 foot view of kind of your background and tell us a little bit about Simply Crowns.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me. So, my whole background's been multi-unit operations. Worked in several different corporate industries, dental, veterinary, laboratory space. So I've kind of cut my teeth in the business world with getting in early, but then really kind of moving into regional field director, usually management roles, and that is kind of about 18 years of that, and worked kind of across the country managing different markets. Um, and after all the corporate time that I did, wanted to really kind of learn how to get out on my own, do something in the community. And one of the doctors I worked with at one of the dental corporations, who's a local guy here in Austin, probably one of the more outgoing, more business minded doctors I've ever met, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got this idea. It's going to sound crazy, but I want you to partner with me. I want you to help me build a business model and see if we can create something that would be kind of cool, funky, different, and give back to the community." So, it took a lot of convincing for him to get me to sit down and look at this. But after I sat down and kind of started working on it with him, we realized that we feel like there's a possible model here. So basically, what we did was, Dr. Benjamin Post, who's the other co-founder and owner doctor, the only time he said he felt alive and felt like he was doing something in dentistry to help people was when he was on mission trips or abroad and doing free dentistry. And so he wanted to he's like, "How do we just do free dentistry in in Austin, Texas?" I was like, "Well, we're not going to be in business very long." And so we went back and forth. And so what we created was Simply Crowns about 6 years ago. And the whole thought process was dental insurance is probably one of the most devalued insurances out there over the last decade. And a lot of people are getting priced out of dentistry. And so what we wanted to do was figure out a way that we could get some prices down on some basic aspects of dentistry and help more people. So the whole thought process was we took the four most profitable pieces of general dentistry and we're the lowest cost provider for that in the US. And so we picked those four pieces knowing that there was a way to kind of create this niche in the dental market. And we did that. We were very proud of just recently, the latest numbers we've saved Central Texans about $17 million on dentistry in a little over 5 years. And so the whole idea was, let's create a niche for those folks that have either been priced out, the insurance just isn't covering those big procedures. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun doing it. It's a different world in our dental offices than most general dental offices kind of in the area for sure. And so, yeah, that's kind of what we've created. We've been somewhat successful, I like to say, managing through a global pandemic, managing through all the other challenges that come along. We hit that face first, and then are now at 4 locations, kind of from San Antonio up to Dallas, and we're just kind of constantly learning from our mistakes, and constantly learning how we can get our name out there more. The biggest challenge we obviously run into is the advertising piece, which of course we can go into if you want. But that's
Beautiful.
kind of 10,000 foot view.
I love it. I love the somewhat successful. I mean, been in business for about 6 years, 4 locations. By most measures, that's definitely successful. So,
Well,
um,
we had much larger goals, at 6 years in that we haven't hit, but that's all part of it.
fair enough. So I always like to just kind of set the stage for the viewers, and I think you've kind of already alluded to this a little bit, but I always like to just ask, just generally speaking, because we talk to so many different businesses that are structured a little bit differently in terms of like ownership structure, especially here in
Mhm,
Central Texas, a lot of tech companies, things like that.
mhm.
So just out of curiosity, generally speaking, kind of what does your current ownership structure look like? It sounds like you've got two people in the business that are co-founders at this point, business partners. Do you have outside investors? Kind of just generally speaking, how's that all structured for y'all?
Yeah, so the structure of a dental practice in the state of Texas is usually very specific. So the DSO model, Dental Services Organization, is the model that we've basically copied, which allows a non-dentist to be involved in a dental business, right?
Mm.
And so we have a management company. Simply Crowns is the management company that manages the practices, which are owned by the doctor 100%. So that's how I can kind of partner with him in growing this thing and founding it and starting it. We didn't take any loan. Well, we didn't take any investors. We bootstrapped it ourselves. So Dr. Post and myself basically put the first capital into the business to get it up and going, and then from there, because no one would give us a business loan in Texas, because what we were doing, no one's done before. So
Mm.
everybody said, no, that's not a general dental office. You don't have 6 month recall. You don't have XYZ. You guys aren't going to make it. Um, and so, it was one of those things where it's like, wow. And Dr. Post was even hit a little between the eyes, because he was like, I get offers in the mail every day, to loan money. But when you're starting something different and we had no data to prove that it would work. So yeah, we bootstrapped it. We got it up and going after about a year, about 8 months of being open in our Austin location. We reached out to a bank, showed them our financials, and said, "Hey, we want to do another one down in San Antonio." And they were like, "Yeah, let's go," because the financials were there. So
Beautiful.
yeah, that's where we're at. From there, the other two locations we've been able to do on our own, without any more loans.
That's fantastic. So I'm always curious, especially having a setup or a structure that's like yours. What role do you currently play in the business? You kind of look at just overall view, or maybe it's multiple roles in the business at this
Sure.
point. But what
Yeah.
what role do you play?
Well, I wear a lot of hats, just like everybody in small business. So the role that I play is going to be basically the administration side of things. So payroll, HR, IT. So sourcing for support there. I manage all the advertising and marketing for the company. Facilities issues. I've actually self-taught myself how to fix dental equipment. So repair and maintenance. A lot of times I'm at the front desk as well, answering calls and booking appointments. So all of that is encompassing in being supportive of what it is we're building. We've hired phenomenal teams that we can trust, that take phenomenal care of our patients, and we're right at 250 5-star reviews, which we're very proud of as well.
It's beautiful.
And that comes from having the right people in here every day doing the right things.
That's fantastic, really and truly. I love the multiple different hats that you play. I think that will definitely resonate with most small businesses out there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but I want to dive a little bit more into kind of what makes the business so special. You've kind of hit some highlight points already, but I always like to just ask
Mm,
the question of like, who's generally speaking, who do you serve, right? And the way I
yeah.
like to frame is if I'm on, if I'm watching this later on and I'm in the audience, how do I know that either I'm a good fit or I might know somebody who's a good fit to come and explore Simply Crowns?
Sure. Yeah. It's pretty widespread as far as our demographic of the folks that come to us. But what we've identified over the last several years is, um, a lot of people go to the dentist. You trust your dentist, and that's great. And you should be going for your 6 month cleans and all those things. But there's a lot of things that go into running a general practice that we don't do, which are the loss leaders. And so since we've kind of cut that out and we've reduced our price, we can kind of find those patients that are looking for a deal. So at the end of the day, what normally happens is patients go to their dentist. As they've gotten older, we're pretty abusive to our teeth. They've broke a tooth. They've got some pain. They've got a cracked tooth, um, and their dentist gives them a treatment plan for a crown. And in the Austin area right now, it's 16 to 1,800 bucks for a crown in this area. Ours are all 699. So obviously, the thought process we had was a lot of people can't afford that right now with
Mm,
everything that's going on and where the economy is going.
yeah.
Um, so obviously, we all have our phones, we have our computers. We go look and see, is there another option out there? Previously, before us, there was not another option. You just got it done. So a lot of folks will find us, call us, and go, "Okay, what's the catch? How can you do it at this price? There, my dentist is saying it's XYZ. Why are you guys so much less?" So that's kind of where it originated from. From there, obviously, word of mouth. When you're saving a patient an average of $1,000 a tooth, that word spreads. And then what we've found, that demographic is really 40 plus. As we start breaking down teeth and we start having issues as we get older. Retirement community as well, very, very critical to our success from the standpoint of a lot of folks on fixed income that simply have to deal with that as they have to deal with it. And so a lot of them find us or through the networking and the communities they live in, they get told about it.
Mm. Which that segues me directly into some questions around marketing. I always love to at least bring up the topic of marketing. It's an area that's, vital to like every business out there. And it's an area that many business owners out there just kind of tend to struggle with unless you're just a phenomenal marketer out there. So I always like to, ask some questions around it, just kind of see what others are doing, how, what are some industries find successful over the over other areas, that sort of thing. So I'm curious, what has been y'all's kind of philosophy to marketing and getting the word out about what y'all do?
Well, honestly, it's whatever we could afford. Being a small business, advertising is extremely expensive. It's the one area when we developed a business model that we completely undercalculated the cost to advertise this business from the standpoint of we always have to be advertising because we don't have that return patient structure of 6 months, come back, get your rechecks, all those things. So most dental offices advertise on a 3 to 4 mile radius around their office. We advertise on a 30 to 50 mile radius around our offices. And a lot of it has just been learned lessons. We tried agencies. When we got to a certain point, we got taken by a couple agencies. We've lost a lot of trust in the advertising space. And my philosophy and background was always, I like to work with people that I can meet with face to face and hold people accountable. And so we really pulled back and just developed our own relationships in the advertising space, whether that be radio, TV, digital, newspaper, whatever you have. We've tried it all. And what's crazy is every single market that we're in, because we're in 4 major markets, 3.5, it's different. It's different how you get in front of people. Obviously, the digital aspect of it, the Google ad campaigns, you have to have those now to even survive or be a legitimate business, because they're going to check your reviews, they're going to check all that information. But what we found as a niche is, and it's strange for us, and I'm not saying that we have any of those beliefs, but conservative talk radio has played the best for us for so many years. Those people are plugged in 24/7. They're looking for a deal. And so that's played really well for us in most markets, not all, but in most markets. And then obviously we started this entire thing with Community Impact, the local newspaper. That was the most affordable option we could do with a very small budget to get the word out that we were even a business or an option. And so, hopefully that goes into detail on what you were asking, but I can definitely go deeper. That's kind of the 3,000-foot view as well.
Yeah, I love it. No, I mean, usually the questions like that is just kind of what's the number one, acquisition channel for you at this point? If you look at like all the clients that or all the patients you've had over the course of last month, kind of what generally has been the strategy that's pulled the majority of them in. I don't know if that's different than, what you've already kind of answered so far, but
I hate to say it, but it's Google. That's what it comes down to. We did a huge campaign around Bing too, and we saw no traction, which really kind of shocked me. I have a small network here in Austin, small business owners, and we meet and we compare notes. And one of the guys that has a custom furniture business was like, "Man, you got to do Bing, man. Everybody that buys, new equipment, that's the loaded search engine that comes on it. So they don't know how to switch it over to Google. So you'll get all the older folks and blah 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 blah." Which was a great thought process. We didn't have success with it. But yeah, Google hands down is where the majority find it.
Beautiful. I love it. We've talked a bunch about kind of the business so far. I want to, take a step back, talk a little bit about your journey. So I spent some time in the corporate world doing a whole bunch of stuff there, made the transition into business ownership and being, more entrepreneurial, that sort of thing. Take me through that journey for you. Like what did you experience making that shift? Was it fearful? Was it exciting? Was it a little bit of both? What was that like for you?
Yeah, yeah, all of the above. Sure. Yeah, after having consistent paycheck for 18 years, working your way up and chasing that next rung on the ladder, which was the majority of the stress. The majority of the stress was, am I outperforming my peers? Am I putting myself in a political aspect in the company against my peers to have the opportunity at the next rung? That's all that I cared about. That's all that I worked for years. And it started right out of college with Enterprise Rent a Car. That was my first job. Unbelievable management training program, but also they're really, really good at getting you to chase, right? And build that culture around you gotta keep moving up. And I think the biggest transition was um, one, being at home with my wife full time. I was very motivated by her to get busy doing something again. And so it was exciting. I think for me, the biggest thing was excitement about doing something that was my baby, along with Dr. Post, knowing that we're good friends. We work extremely well together. This is the right guy to partner with. I'd had an experience previously of partnering with a friend that it didn't go so well. And so I had learned a lot of lessons in a very, very long 2 years, I like to call it. Um, and so it was just excited about being back in Austin, doing something that we can give back to the community that felt good. I always tell everyone I've never slept better than I do working, for myself and doing something to give back in the community. So yeah, there's scary times. There's a few months I didn't know if we are going to make payroll. There's a few months where there's a lot of people calling me looking for payment. Totally understand all that, and that stress I can handle. Um, and it's just a different type of stress, right? Than
Mhm.
chasing the next rung on the ladder. So mostly excitement to do something new out of the box. And to this day, anytime I get stopped anywhere and they go, people go, "What do you do?" I tell them you got to get ready because it's not a short answer, right? I'm going to hit you with a lot of information, and I'm also going to do a sales pitch at the end of that, to make sure that hey, come check us out.
I love that. Just the whole like little tidbit of there might have been a time when we weren't sure we are going to make payroll, and I think that's the story of just about every newer
Oh,
business owner that's out there that's kind of gone
absolutely.
through process. It's almost like a rite of passage almost that you got to be able
Yeah.
to go
You
through.
got to pay your dues, man. You got to stress. You got to lose at least one night's sleep, not knowing if you're going to cover that. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So I'm curious, as you look back on your journey in business ownership specifically, what has been either the most memorable kind of like roadblock or hurdle that you've had to overcome, or kind of the biggest lesson that you've learned as a business owner? I think you had mentioned earlier there
Man.
was you've had some things that you've had to learn from along the way. So I'm just curious, is there one instance that kind of stands out that has helped you get to where you are today?
Not necessarily an instance. I just think I go back to the advertising piece. I mean, hiring, attracting talent, putting together strong operating teams. That was my whole background. Figuring out an IT support system, figuring out locations and real estate and all that stuff. I'd done all that, right? But in the corporate industry, I never was involved in advertising and marketing. I didn't know anything about it, and so I was really pretty shocked with how intricate and how challenging that can be, right? And so, yeah, if we went through the entire process of how long we've been in business and feel like there's one area we lost the most revenue in, and it was the most painful, it would have been the lessons we learned there.
Hmm. So let's fast forward a couple years. As you
Mhm.
look at where things are headed for the business, where do you see things in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think we want to continue to expand. I mentioned earlier goals that we had wanted. We really feel like the state of Texas can handle 25 of these locations, if we're strategic in how we do that. The difference is we're doing it on our own without any financial partners, so that
Mm,
definitely slows you down. But I think what we've realized is we're okay with that. I've been a part of companies that grew too fast and saw that fail.
mm,
And so I think what we've realized is we like small business. We're comfortable with it. If we go to a couple more locations over the next 3 to 5 years, cool. We're not pushing hard to get to 10, anything like that. It really comes down to, does the market does the market demand us to continue to grow?
Hmm.
And if so, great. We haven't been to Houston. We'd love to be in Houston. We feel like Dallas, obviously, we need to put a second location up there. Um, so yeah, I think 3 to 5 years we're going to continue to hopefully, 2 to 3 locations that we'll add.
It's fantastic. I always like to ask a little bit about goal setting. Do you have a process for goal setting for you personally? Are you someone that writes down every goal? How do you
Yeah.
document it? Like, what? Give me a little bit of a snapshot into how you approach goal setting.
Yeah, I'm really big on setting personal goals, and they are all written down for sure. And I track those notes. I check back every 30 days. It's just a system I put in place. So at the end of each month, I go back and look at what I've written down and what we were working towards. And there's nothing I like more than checking things off my list or goals achieved. Right, uh, that's a huge deal at the end of each month to be able to write to scratch something off or readjust it to, hey, we could have done better, right?
Mm,
We could have gone a little bit higher than what we set our goal at. So let's not settle. um, I think that's critical. And then I think obviously as partners, Dr. Post and I sit probably pretty much weekly. Since we commute to Dallas once a week, we have a lot of windshield time. So, we spend a lot of time talking about, where else do we think we can expand? What are some of the lessons we've learned? So I think open communication is critical around that. But for me personally, it's documented.
I love it. I always like to, just kind of dive into that piece, and you hit some really cool things. I hope people take some notes from that. I mean, just the process of looking at them every 30 days, that's powerful. So, when we're thinking about the future of business, I feel it's always important just to, address the topic of building a great team. Sounds like something that you've kind of been around for a long time. So,
Mhm.
kind of just have two general things I'd love to ask about. The first one is just leadership style. How would you describe kind of your leadership style, and has that changed over the course of the last several years?
I think I learned early on because I was able to make it to a management role very young in life, and I screwed up a lot. Um, and I think what I learned very early on was that all leadership means is my job is to make everyone that is working with me their job easier. That's it. It's that simple. Every single day, if I can find something that I can help my team's day easier, their job easier, so they can do it in a more positive, relaxed environment, um, then we all win. It's that
Mm,
simple. That's stuck with me for God, I don't know, man, probably 15 years, if not longer. My job is to work for all them.
beautiful. I absolutely love that. That is a huge nugget. So if you are watching this, write that one down and make sure that you apply that later on.
It's yeah,
Um,
it's
yeah,
no joke.
I know there's a few things we teach around business. One of them is just the fact that the owner's job is to take care of the team. The team will take care of the business, and I think that
Yep.
resonates a lot with what you just shared. When it comes to team and looking at kind of even the next 6 months, I've always been a believer in continuing to train your team and give them the skills and the tools that they need. When you look at kind of where your business is heading, maybe the current business climate, where do you see probably the greatest need, like area for training for your teams?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we're seeing in the state of Texas specifically is dental assistants to be specific to this industry.
Hmm.
I think during COVID, a lot of those schools shut down, and I think a lot of the training kind of got pushed aside. And I think a lot of people lost interest in being involved in that, even though it was kind of interesting that the dental space is already one of the cleanest environments you can be in. So when COVID hit, it was like, well, we're already doing all that stuff. As far as wiping down and gloves and masks, all that was normal for the team anyway.
Hmm.
We took it to the next level because obviously we had to. But I think what we've seen in Austin specifically, and I talked to some friends in Dallas and San Antonio as well, is they can't find quality assistants. And so I think being able to understand that you can train within, finding folks that are willing to come in and explain to them that they may start up front, but they can also learn on the job with online schooling and getting registered to the state of Texas, that they can do both.
Hmm.
And that creates a little bit of a career path for us. So I think that's our biggest challenge is making sure our team understands that, yeah, you got to do your job, but we also take time to train those folks that are coming in that are interested in learning it as well.
Excellent. Well, we've certainly covered a ton of ground so far in the conversation. For those that are watching, make sure you save this. There's a ton of nuggets that are coming out of this conversation. So make sure you save it, come back, rewatch this thing a couple different times. But as we start to wrap up, Kyle, I
Mhm.
love to ask just kind of a couple rapid fire questions, about four different rapid fire questions. And I've got one specific question that we'll end on today.
Okay,
So four questions here, gut response, kind of top of head answers for each of these. I know we could go deeper on it on a handful of them, but
sure.
yeah, aim to kind of go quick answers on some of these here. So first one, Kyle, what's your key to success?
Hiring the right people.
Love it. What's one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners?
Work for your people.
What's one book that you're either reading currently or have read most recently?
Oh man, you're gonna get me there. Not a big reader, and I'm just gonna own it. Um, Need some in the queue is gonna be my answer.
Love it. If you had to choose only one area that your business could immediately magically improve upon tomorrow, where would you put that magic?
Man, growth.
Mm, love it. So before we get to the final question of the day, how can others find out more information about Simply Crowns? How can they follow what you're up to, connect with you, any of that kind of stuff? Where can we send the audience for more information?
Yeah, so simplycrowns.com. Obviously, all four locations are housed there along with all the services we provide. We do have Facebook and Instagram accounts you can go to as well, all under Simply Crowns. I'm completely open. Personal emails Kyle at simplycrowns.com if you have specific questions. But yeah, outside of that, that's going to be the majority of it.
Beautiful. Well, I will make sure to put all of that in the description of the video below. So I'm going to encourage everybody that's watching to take a moment, grab those links, go check everything out. Make sure you connect with Kyle. One of the things that we do here with this particular spotlight series is to connect business owners, especially here in the Central Texas area. So if you're around, you want to get to know Kyle a little bit better, send him a note. Highly encourage it there. But as we wrap up, got one final question I love to kind of wrap all these conversations on,
Sure.
and that is this. Kyle, what is most inspiring to you today?
Man, that's a good one to wrap up with too. Um, Man, I think the most inspiring thing to me is that despite all the noise that's going on in the world that we live in, whether you agree with it, disagree with it, um, every day you can get up and make an impact.
Hmm,
If you focus on what's around you and what's important to you, you can go make an impact every single day. If you get caught up in all the other noise, you're wasting time.
that's fantastic. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you again for taking the time to sit down with me today. It's been a true pleasure to just chat with you, hear some of the lessons learned along the way, all the amazing things y'all are up to. Just truly fantastic. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Appreciate it, Tanner. Take care.